Good afternoon, everyone. This is a live interactive webinar conducted by shiksha.com on the topic Industry Impact and MBA Education, which sectors will suffer and which may prosper. So as Shiksha, being a part of Infos Group, we've been taking various webinars educating students of this particular sector of how the decision making should be, and today we'll be covering this topic. We have five panelists today who are experts in their personal domains, and we'll be taking you through what should be your approach in such a situation. To give you a brief about the panelists, we have Dr. Prabhat Pankaj, who is the Director of Jaipuria Institute of Management, Jaipur. We have Dr. Commander Satish Seth, who is the Director General at Jagannath International Management School, Kalkaji. We have Mr. O.P. Kanduja, Executive Director, APJ Dwarka Campus. We have Professor Dr. Teena Singh, who is the Registrar at New Delhi Institute of Management. We have Professor Dr. Rajesh Chakrabarti, who is the Professor and Dean, Jindal Global Business School. So in the first 10 minutes, I'll be introducing you about shiksha.com and the respective profiles of the panelists, post which each panelist will share his expert opinions with you people. Giving you a brief about the panelists in today's discussion, we'll firstly start off with Professor Dr. Rajesh Chakrabarti, who's the Dean, Jindal Global Business School, OP Jindal Global University. Professor Chakrabarti is a professor and dean at Jindal Global Business School, Jindal Global University. Before joining JGU, he has taught at the University of Alberta, Canada, Georgia Tech, USA, and the Indian School of Business. As the founding executive director of the Bharati Institute of Public Policy at ISB Mohali's campus, he helped design and launch one of the India's leading public policy programs. He has also been the Executive Vice President, Research and Policy at the Wadhwani Foundation and is a co-founder of the policy advisory startup, Sunair Policy Advisory. Professor Rajesh has held visiting positions at various institutions, including IIM Kolkata, ISI Delhi, ICM Nancy, France, and the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. He's authored or edited 9 books with another one on artificial intelligence forthcoming in 2020. He's also published several book chapters and articles on finance, economics, and management in leading international scholarly journals like Journal of Financial Economics and Journal of International Business Studies. He's been a columnist with Financial Express and is frequently quoted in the media. The second panelist for today will be Mr. O.P. Kanduja, who is the Executive Director, APJ Campus, Dwarka, Delhi. He's been a marketing veteran with illustrious careers spanning over 38 years with various global FMCG majors like BS Group, Dabur, PepsiCo, Baidyanath, Tata, and Hallmark Group. He's a passionate leader and an effective communicator who has led large, diverse, and cross-functional teams to achieve objectives. He successfully launched more than 50 brands during his tenure across various companies. He's been awarded as the Jewel of Spice Industry by Federation of Indian Spice Stakeholders, UCLDL Shah Award 2016 Gold Award, Top Rankers Excellence Award for Marketing Professional of the Year in 2013, etc. Mr. Kanduja has recently conferred Global Business Icon Award in the category of Lifetime Achievement Award. He has also contributed to several social initiatives like Beti Bachao campaign with a special focus on female atrocities. This campaign has been recognized by the Dada Saheb Phalke Film Foundation Award 2017 for the Best Song Documentary. He has also authored various articles like Scope of Make in India in the Food Sector, which appeared in Indian Food Report in 2018-19. After several decades to corporate and contributed to building several brands, he decided to give it back to the society. Therefore, he got associated with academics. He's helping young leaders become industry-ready professionals. He's been very instrumental in minimizing the age gap between industry expectation and academics. The third panel for today will be Dr. Prabhat Pankaj, who is the Jaipuria Institute of Management. He's a postgraduate in economics and PhD in applied economics. He has been teaching economics at postgraduate and undergraduate level for about 26 years in the universities and B schools in India and abroad, including 6 years at Sherupse College, Bhutan. He has won prestigious engagement and fellowship of Indian government and undertaken assignments in Europe, Thailand, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Sri Lanka. Dr. Prabhat obtained executive education from Harvard University, Boston in management and leadership in higher education. Dr. Prabhat is an inquisitive person and a profound researcher with a firm belief in creative and innovative thinking. He's an expert in he's an expert on Bhutan's economic and social development, and he's well networked in Bhutan throughout the country. He worked extensively with Center of Bhutan Studies and represented Royal Government of Bhutan at UNESCO. Meet on post-Hampton agenda and presented the country paper. He's a keen researcher and a resource person on the subject of economics of happiness, faculty leadership, effective teaching, and outcome based education. He writes in Times of India and Economic Times. He's had several research papers on the subject of sustainability, happiness, household economics, poverty, and trade in reputed national and international journals. Dr. Prabhat was an invitee at the World Government Summit 2019 Dubai by the Ministry of Happiness, UAE. He is currently serving as the director of Jaipuria Institute of Management, Jaipur. And Ahmedabad has written a case study titled Jaipuria Institute of Management, Jaipur, focusing on the student engagement with Dr. Prabhat, which Dr. Prabhat has initiated in incorporating blending of formal non-formal learning. The fourth panelist for today will be Dr. Commander Satish Seth, Director General JIMS Kalkaji. He's a postgraduate mechanical engineer with an MBA from FMS Delhi University. His doctorate is in the behavior. He's a fellow of prestigious institutions such as Institution of Engineers and Institute of Marine Engineers. Under his stewardship, JIMS Kalkaji New Delhi has ascended to new heights and is today recognized as an institute renowned for its robust partnership with industry, nationalizations, and foreign universities. JIMS is currently ranked as the 30th best B school in India and has been awarded with prestigious MBA and NAC accreditations. An HR and strategy specialist, he has research papers and book publications to his credit. He's a paper reviewer for Emerald Group Publishing, an accredited corporate trainer with the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and is also an academic advisor to the International Education Group Eureka based in Dubai. The fifth panelist for today will be Professor Dr. Teena Singh, who is the registrar at New Delhi Institute of Management. She's working with NDIM since June 2009. She has over 19 years of experience in the field of HR, academics, and strategic management consultancy, both for corporate and academia. Her areas of expertise include HRM, employee relations, and organizational behavior. She has organized many conferences, summits, MDPs, and panel discussions on futuristic topics. Her papers have been published in the national and international journals. Student engagement, employee engagement, and psychological well-being are her current area of research. She is responsible for establishing international linkages and leading new strategic initiatives. She discharges the responsibility of registrar at NDIM. To give you a brief about shiksha.com, in the last 12 months, starting from April 2019 to March 2020, shiksha.com observed 335 million plus page views. There were around 71 million plus active users with an average duration of around 2 minutes for per visit of a user, and there were all in all 140 million plus student visits on Shiksha. This data has been sourced by Google Analytics for across a year's period. A brief snapshot about online presence. Shiksha.com has information about 30,000 plus colleges, 2 lakh plus courses, and around 600 plus entrance exams. We have 1.75 lakh plus college reviews, which are purely authenticated in a form that they are true. We have a Q&A platform where students can ask their questions and get relevant answers. We have a lot of content on the basis of ebooks, sample papers. We have study abroad counseling services, college and rank predictors, college comparison tools, news and articles about various topics, and Campus Connect, wherein we connect with the users from the different colleges so that we give it back to the platform and the coming people. We'll be starting off with the first panelist for today. The first panelist for today is Professor Dr. Rajesh Chakrabarty. Good afternoon, Dr. Rajesh. We would love to know your views on what the industry impact in MBA education. Which sectors do you think will suffer and which do you think will prosper going ahead?
Well, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It's a real pleasure and an honor to speak to all of you today. And the question or the topic for the day is very relevant as well: industry impact and MBA education. Now, it's tempting to get into the mode of saying who are going to be the losers, which is a much bigger set, and who are going to be the few handful winners of this completely unprecedented shock that has covered the world economy today in the form of COVID-19. But I would just hold on to that for a few minutes before actually undertaking that exercise. When you think of the topic, as I was wondering about it, industry impact and MBA education, the first thought that comes to mind, or at least came to my mind, is that how should MBA education adjust itself to the COVID-19 effect? And should we focus on the winning sectors? And should we figure out how the suffering sectors will have to reinvent themselves in light of this massive shock? As I was thinking about the topic a little bit more, it also struck me that that it's very obvious that while virtually every sector would be hit by the current crisis, some would be hit far more than others. So there is going to be an overall macro level impact for everyone. And then there's going to be a substitution effect, in the sense that some would lose more than others. Since MBA education is almost always geared towards the job market, as educators, we need to pay particular attention to the rising sectors and the lagging sectors in terms of specializing our content, or so we would like to believe. However, I would say that may be a slightly risky strategy to take. In fact, when we think about taking the MBA curriculum to address the needs of the marketplace, something that we need to pay greater attention to is the understanding that good MBA curriculum does not prepare a student for the next job. It actually prepares the student for an entire lifetime career. So what looks like a winner today and may actually be a beneficiary over the next 2-3 years is, of course, something to pay attention to and to understand well, because as an MBA graduate, you are expected to know the environment in which the industry functions and the relative strengths and weaknesses of various sectors. But to think that an MBA would be positioning himself or herself towards that winning sector and try to find a job there, maybe a little bit of an opportunistic thought. So while there's no harm in picking up a skill or two which is more valued in the sectors which we think are going to do better than others, at the same time you have to understand that an MBA education actually prepares people for at least a 20-25 year run. If anything in the world can do that today, because we are increasingly moving to an era of very high obsolescence of knowledge, and therefore people have to come back to campus and come back to schools throughout their lives at regular intervals in order to pace with the fast changing world. But to the extent that an MBA education builds the foundation of a corporate career for students, decisions of specialization, if any, is probably best not made in the light of an ongoing crisis, however large the crisis may be, and particularly while the dust is still far from settled in the ongoing crisis. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you here is that my overarching conclusion from the ongoing COVID crisis is that it seems to affect or strengthen two trends that we have seen in the world economy and in the Indian economy, which have been there for several years now. Several years, in the sense, I would say probably at least half a decade to a decade long trends, which have now been strengthened by the current crisis. And these two trends are deglobalization and virtualization. One is about how the world economy is shaping up, geopolitical shifts, rise of protectionism in various countries, and what we had witnessed for, I would say, at least 3 decades before this counter movement started was increasing globalization. And about half a decade back, the wheel started turning in the opposite direction. And boundaries and national borders started mattering more. And together with that, obviously comes the relentless move, the relentless march towards virtualization. The internet and resulting e-commerce is not just a substitute for physical commerce that the world has seen for millennia. It strengthens and it competes with the same resources and same markets that the physical economy exchanges depend upon. So virtualization has also been an increasingly important trend in recent years. What the COVID crisis seems to do is it strengthens both of these trends. Both deglobalization gets strengthened because of the fear of international contagion, of long distance contagion, movement of people, fear of people themselves, leading to increased deglobalization. And the only way to do business without contact is, of course, virtualization. So that gets strengthened. So the long and short of it is this, that sectors which are high on virtualization and which are in step with deglobalization, or in other words, less dependent on global supply chains, are likely to be the sectors that are going to do better, relatively better. All are going to be hurt. And all are going to be hurt because the entire macro economy is going to be hurt. It's not about one sector getting hurt. It's the entire demand going down sharply, everybody getting hurt. But in that dark scenario, who's hurt more than others is what I'm talking about right now. So the sectors which are less dependent on global supply chain, who are more localized, are likely to have a relatively less exposure. Sectors that are obviously have inelastic demand, they resist all shocks better than the ones with elastic demand. So sectors like pharmaceuticals, sectors like education, they are somewhat less exposed than others. I only say somewhat because the way of delivering those products are also going to go through quite a lot of change. So those are the sectors that are going to be affected a little less. So they're going to be slightly more immune than others. But understand that even now, we really do not know how this story is going to end. We are still in the middle of the movie. We have probably not even reached the intermission. So we don't know how this movie is going to end. We don't know how long the COVID effect is going to affect the entire world economy and, of course, the Indian economy. It is possible that in a matter of 12 to 18 months, we will have a vaccine that fights the disease well, and maybe in a span of 2 to 3 years, we would just learn to live with the coronavirus, just like we live with so many hundreds of other viruses. Or it could be that this is a complete watershed in the manner in which humans interact with one another and do commerce with one another, in which case it can have very far-reaching consequences across globe and across industries. Now, before I stop, I'll just refer to an analysis that Moodys has done, and because I don't want to sidestep the main issue completely at all. And it has identified a few sectors, some of which are, I think, quite obvious. Passenger airlines, lodging, leisure and tourism, non-food retail, global shipping, consumer durables, automotive supply, automotive manufacturing, apparel, as sectors that have very high exposure to the current crisis. And the ones that are relatively lower exposure include food retail, telecom, equipment and transportation, pharmaceuticals, and a few others. I'm going to stop there, and maybe when time comes for further questions, if any comes this way, I'll be happy to elaborate on some of these things. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Rajesh Chakrabarti. We really appreciate the points that I've shared with you. We have a few questions for you also, which as discussed earlier, we'll be taking up at the end. The next panelist for today will be Dr. Prabhat Pankaj. Mr. Kanduja will be joining us in some time, and Dr. Prabhat Pankaj, requesting you to please take the discussion forward. Thank you so much. And welcome to the
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes.
Sure. Very good afternoon, and very good afternoon to all the listeners of this webinar. It's a very important topic that you have. So I would like to congratulate, first of all, shiksha.com to pick up this topic, because as a director, I have been facing a lot of questions day in and day out, and we have been talking to the students constantly. So one thing which is very clear is that the students and the parents both are very confused. The first decision they have to take is that whether they should join MBA education in this time or not, or should they leave 1 year and join next year. That is one important question they would like to answer. Second, what will happen to their employment? That is the second quite big question that I have been asked by all the parents and students. The third question they are asking is that what will happen to the education per se? Is that going to change altogether in the online mode, or are we going to come back to the campus at all? So these are some of the apprehensions. These apprehensions cannot be set aside, and it's very important questions to answer because the industry has been affected, the economy has been affected. There is no doubt on that. There's a lot of we have got the projections also, how is going to unfold. Is going to be U-shaped recovery, is going to be V-shaped recovery, or is going to be L-shaped recovery. We are not going into all this detail. If time permits, I'll reflect on those as well. But keeping all these things together, looking at the industry impact and the MBA education. So I would like to begin first. I would like to make 3-4 points, brief points for everybody to understand, keeping the entire milieu of the situation. So the first point I would like to touch upon is on the education. And in a way, I'm extending the argument of Dr. Chakrabarti. He has rightly pointed out that education is not about just what is going to happen today. It's going to happen over a lifetime or life cycle. So it's a lifelong education which is more important. How you create your capacity is more important. So when I look at from this particular point of view, I look at all the recessions that has happened in the past. So in all the recession time, you will see that the tertiary education, that is higher education institutions, are flooded with the entries, and they are the one which is on the peak demand when the rest of the economy will start going down. And why this happens? This happens because this is the right time for everybody to build the skills, the right kind of skills which will be needed tomorrow. And if you look at Indian situation, the gross enrollment ratio in higher educational institutions have actually increased more than fourfold since 2001. And today it stands at 26.3%, which was merely 10% some few years ago. And therefore, the higher educational institutions, if you look at the number of higher educational institutions from the supply side, we have one of the highest in the world. That is 52,000 odd higher educational institutions are there. And if you look at how many of them are actually in the private sector, it's almost 75%, or 3/4 of them are in the private sector. So higher education demand is one all-time high, and it has been like that. And it has happened precisely because the move towards MBA, if you look at, there are two fundamental factors. There are many, but I'm just focusing on two for everybody to understand. One was the low employability of the graduates. And second was the poor quality of teaching, and these two are the fundamental thing on which the MBA started delivering. And that's the reason why there is a big demand for. Has it changed due to COVID? It has not changed at all. And the emphasis on low employability, converting the graduates into employable graduates, is still the stake of the MBA. And MBA is not looking only to get them the first job, but also what is going to happen in the next 5 years or 10 years down the line in their life. And people have, the institutions have started changing and working on that. Industry Connect has been very important aspect of MBA education. The quality of teaching has also been addressed to a larger extent in MBA education because the pedagogical change, the right mix of blending of the online learning and the in-class learning, or outside class learning and inside class learning, the formal learning and the informal learning. So a lot of institutions have actually practiced, and they have developed some kind of nice fine blend to achieve the quality in teaching. Looking at from the so it's the right time that the students should take a decision if they have any doubt in mind that they should go for MBA, they should not go for MBA. So I would like to tell them that this is the right time to go for MBA, and they should join MBA. That's the first point I would like to make. Second point, I would like to look at the kind of crisis that has happened and what will happen to the employability factor, and what will happen, what is the outlook in 20, what is the outlook in 21, 22, and which sectors are going to do better, which sectors are not going to do better. So look at the three stakeholders point of view. That's the second point I'm making. The three stakeholders from the point of view. One is the government, another is the business, and the third is the consumer. So these are the three major stakeholders of the economy. The government is propelled by three F factors, mostly like the food, the forex, and the fuel. And these three F is actually determining how the government is going to take forward the business and tackle the crisis. On all three fronts, unfortunately, the Indian situation is far more better than many other countries in the world. The fuel prices is fortunately has collapsed, and that is also going to help. Forex reserve is not that big a problem for Indian economy. Food is also enough in stock, and therefore the tackling capacity of this COVID crisis of our government is quite good. And if at all there is going to be a fall in the GDP for 2020-21, it's not going to be negative, in my opinion. It's not going to be negative for Indian economy, but many economies of the world is going to see the negative growth rate. And precisely, the impact is going to be far more lesser felt, but it's not to say that the impact will not be there. For business, the problem is related to credit, cash flow, size, and then in the current crisis, how it has affected the business is that the lower the size of the business, the higher the impact they're facing. And that's why the focus on SMEs, the small businesses are going to be there. From the students' point of view, if you look at this phenomenon, then, if you're looking at, getting some kind of engagement with industry, what kind of engagement are you looking at? Mostly, you focus most on the urban service sector, or maybe, some other companies like finance, which are dealing with the finance, and also dealing with retail, big retail business. And mostly it's the big businesses that you are focusing more on that. So, for you, things will change, but of course not so much of impact that I can I can see. I'll give you some more data about it, how as a student of MBA, you're not going to face much of a problem in connecting to the industry due to COVID, as the other sectors of the economy are going to face. So far as consumer is concerned, yeah, of course, the Indian consumers, they have very high aversion behavior vis-a-vis the consumers rest of the world. If you look at the consumers in US, consumers in other European countries, their aversion behavior is slightly lower than the Indian consumers aversion behavior. So because of this aversion behavior, there is going to be a lot of things that will be postponed for tomorrow. So including the consumption is going to be postponed for tomorrow, which is going to be one of the obstacles in reviving the economy. So this is the challenge that I can see. As far as the employment is concerned, the students have asked the questions that whether it has totally stopped. The answer is no. You look at the Economic Times report or some other LinkedIn reports that has come up, how many companies have advertised and all. And you will be surprised to know that in the last 4 weeks, there have been almost about 200,000 jobs have been posted by very many companies. And out of that, 80,000 openings were for the freshers, that is at the entry level. And I'll give you my example of Jaipuria Institute of Management. In Jaipuria Institute of Management, the outgoing batch has almost been placed altogether, all of them, and none of them have been given the deferral from the company. They have been given work from home, but they have not actually postponed the employment altogether. So there's something happening over there. So if you look at the companies like Amazon, Google, Tech Mahindra, Walmart, IBM, Deloitte. The Deloitte, Chief Talent Officer S.V. Nathan's statement was published in news very recently, and he clearly said that if you have, we have the vision about the vision and the role clarity about the job that we are offering, and we keep on offering, we'll keep on offering this job. And therefore, the companies which have vision and which have clarity about the role of the job, about the job that they're offering, they'll keep on offering the job. There is no going to be stopping. For example, the Grofers have actually 5,000 openings even currently. Big Baskets, you look at 10,000 openings currently in logistic, roles. And the gaming industry, the edutech, the digital content, these are some of the upcoming areas given the slowdown. But of course, retail outlets have been suffering in a big way, and especially the grocery and the supermarket, they have been closed, and the general merchandise is also suffering. The health purchase, care, the personal care stores have been suffering. Automobile, dealers are suffering. Office supplies and stationery stores are suffering. Restaurant, of course, is one of the good example of how B2B business happens. It's suffering a sharp decline. Sale, of course, even before this COVID came, it already was on the slowdown. So there have been some slowdown that is also a result of a cyclical process, not just because of the COVID, but of course, COVID has affected a lot of them. But at low risk and quick revival sectors, if you look at, you have the utilities, you have information, you have finance and retail, construction will come back, mining will come back, education and health will come back, and the different services will come back. So, as a MBA student, if you're looking at the urban services to be one engagement, finance as one engagement, retail as one engagement, e-commerce as one engagement, supply chain as one engagement. So there can be several sectors where you can get engaged, and so there is no point in being depressed that your things have not been taken care of. So this is the second point I would like to move. The last point I would like to move is that make that the crisis is coming to India as an opportunity. So this is the point I would like to make, and there have been several papers that has been written on that. A lot of analysis has been done that how crisis is going to turn into an opportunity for India, and it's not only for Indian economy per se, but the new generation of students who would be joining the higher education is going to be a big opportunity for them. They should not lose out this opportunity to join and upskill themselves. So how this is going to happen? So there has already been a lot of talk that the India is going to be the hub for and a lot of countries in the world, they will look towards India. For example, the pharmaceutical is already looking up to India. A lot of companies from China is planning to shift to India, shift their base to India, and almost like 300 of them are actively pursuing their cases with the government. So if I can give you the example of how this is going to happen is, look at the Apple manufacturing partner Winstron Corporations. They're already in talk with Indian company. iPhone assembler Pegatron is considering India. You look at the POSCO and Hyundai Steel of South Korean companies. They are already in talks with the ministry, and government has also taken a lot of steps. So if you look at some of the policies that the government of India is, that's an indicator of how things are going to fall in place. So look at the fact import duty is likely to increase, and India is going to announce it very soon. So this is one indicator that India would like to give slightly competitive edge to its industry. So the government seems to be committed. The cut in the corporation tax is one of the indicator you can see why the companies from abroad would like to shift to India. So Japanese company, Korean companies, mobile companies, electronics, medical devices, textiles, synthetic fabrics. I can give you a number of examples how they are working with the Indian government very closely. And of course, there will be a lot of factors that will work. Whether they actually come to settle in our economy will depend upon ease of doing business and how the government is going to facilitate. But I'm sure that something positive will occur, and India will emerge as a big player. So I have made 3 points. One, this is the right time for the MBA education, and the aspirants who are looking for doing MBA, they should take quick decisions to join, because those who are going to join today are going to get the reap the benefit tomorrow, and this is the right time to do that. That's one point I have made. Second point I have made is that the Indian economy is down, but in comparison to the rest of the world, it's not down as much as it is seen in rest of the world. And the revival possibility of Indian economy is V-shaped, not the U or L-shaped. And especially for some of the sectors will revive very fast. So that is the second point I made. The third point I made is that the Indian economy and the job per se is not going to be a problem. And those who are joining today, they will be looking for job in, let's say, 2021. So if I look at how the things are going to unfold in 2021, I'm very optimistic, and I'm sure that they will get a job which were never before seen in the economy. And it is up to them to take the opportunity in their hands. And therefore, crisis has to be looked at as a big opportunity. That's how I look at the whole thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Prabhat. In fact, for that matter, it was a lot of motivation, and people would. In fact, we also believe at Info that tough times don't last too long. Tough people. That's the right time for people to take tough decisions and move ahead in their lives, given the kind of the scenario that we are in. Coming back to the topic, I now request and invite Dr. Satish Singh, Director General at Jagannath International Management School, Kalka ji, to take forward the discussion on the same topic. Welcome, sir. Dr. Satish, we are not able to hear you. Dr. Satish, I think the laptop would be on mute or the mobile would be on mute. Can you please unmute that?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, 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 absolutely, sir.
Yeah, okay. So I'll begin then. Good afternoon to all of you. Indeed, privileged to be here today, and it's my pleasure to be speaking to you. Hello.
Yes, yes, it's audible, sir.
Yeah, okay. It's my pleasure to be speaking to you on the topic today: industry impact and MBA education. Which sectors will suffer and which will prosper? Now, as far as being, the fourth in a line of 5 speakers, uh, well, I would say that's the best thing that could happen to anybody, because all quite a bit of the goodness that is to come relating to this topic would probably have been spoken and have been spoken by some of the speakers. Uh, in that sense, I feel Tina, who will be whom we have preceded, she probably will be envying us all. Nevertheless, getting on with it, I'll be talking generally on the topic as such, and then specifically with on some of the initiatives that we have Jim Skalkaji have taken so as to do the best by our students to try and minimize the effects of COVID in the as far as education is concerned, and to make our students as quickly as possible get into stride and move into the corporate world. So the coronavirus 2019 pandemic, well, some have aptly referred to it as the corona tsunami, which has swept countries worldwide. In fact, a recent UNESCO report, it has stated that 190 countries have been affected, in fact, swamped by it. Their economies, trade, businesses, and more importantly, people and lives have been severely disrupted, severely damaged, I would say. India has not been spared either. Latest figures show about 40,000 cases in India and the death toll of about 1,300. So let us consider and speak a little about the impact on India. Now, Dr. Prabhatan mentioned about the effect on the economy, and on the businesses languishing, but hopefully they are likely to recover fast on a V-shaped basis. Well, the economy was weak, to begin with prior to the pandemic. And with the pandemic having, taken root, and as yet we are not even, like somebody said, at the intermission stage. So the economy has taken a severe hit. Businesses, yes, suffering. As per a latest CMI report, the unemployment rate, well, that has shot up, and it is about, in mid-March, it was about 8.4%, and has risen to 23% April. And so has the employment rate, which has spiraled to 30.9%. Apart from the economic and societal impact, let us consider industry and education. To begin with, education. What has been the impact on the education sector? Well, as you are aware, schools and colleges have been closed since mid-March. Of course, certain colleges, such as ours, Jim Skalkaji, we have adopted e-learning solutions. We have conducted online classes, presentations, mentoring sessions, and faculty development programs. And next week onwards, we're also going to be conducting online examinations for our PGDM and our international business students. Also, a lot of Indians, they have been adversely affected, those who had gone to study abroad. Some have returned, others have been detained, and so that has not been very amenable as far as they are concerned. And the long-term effect of this, of course, will be the decline, in demand for international education. Unemployment rate touched off, but along with that, complementary to that, the fear among students, about job withdrawal offers from corporates. Fortunately, in our case, although Deloitte was asking about, the date of examinations, etc., but none of our recruiters, whether it's Amazon, Deloitte, they have actually, said no. They have been very understanding, and hopefully all placements are in order and will take place once their examinations are over in the month of May. Yes, there has been disruption in the delivery of education, and that has pushed our policymakers, to act. Their dilemma being how to drive engagement at scale, whilst of course ensuring inclusive e-learning solutions and taking the account and tackling the digital divide. Both the UGC and AICT, they have issued revised academic calendars with the new session slated to start from 1st September and exams of current batches to take place in July. However, with industry being impatient and employers pressing to join, well, we at GEM Alkaji, we decided not to wait for July. So we were a little proactive in that sense, and we have already organized to commence our examinations, online examinations, next week onwards. Looking a little at talking about economy and the vis-a-vis the industry, some of the speakers have already mentioned about the sectors, how they have fared. It is of interest, of course, to students to be understanding this particular aspect, because when they who have been placed is fine, but those who have not been placed, they probably would be, looking at the sectors, how the ones which have been worst hit, the ones which have weathered the COVID-19, and perhaps the ones which are likely to benefit most post the lockdown. So, as mentioned already, some of these worst hit, of course, are aviation. But then, strong companies like Indigo, they are likely to fare better than others. Then retail, financials, automobiles, travel and tourism, etc. All these have been worst hit. But financials, the banks and the NBFCs, well, hopefully that some of our top of the line banks like HDFC, etc., which have a strong capital base, they probably will come out emerge faster, but that would take a couple of quarters going on to next year, financial year, before they actually emerge, and are seen to, and we can feel more optimistic about their performance. Of course, initially they'll be looking into a lot into risk management to begin with. Then, of course, sectors which have weathered COVID-19, been mentioned. Local pharma is one where, these are companies where who have a strong domestic demand, and then diagnostics, which has certainly shot into, prominence because of the testing that is to be done for COVID. And then utilities and agrochem and fertilizers. The ones likely to benefit most after the lockdown, again, oil, the oil prices come down, FMCG companies like Hindustan Unilever, paints like Asian and Nerolac, these are likely to, fare well, but it'll take time. The recovery will take time, maybe into the next year. Telecom, retail and multiplex, the PVRs, restaurants, companies like Jubilant, and of course, once again, the private banks, they are likely to benefit once the COVID is over. All I would like to impress upon at this particular stage is, whenever there is crisis, well, business schools, it is incumbent upon them. In fact, it is imperative that, the business schools, these colleges, they need to rise and they need to embark on formulating strategies, new initiatives, which can improve the prospects for their students in the pandemic. Hackneyed as it may sound, but it must be said, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So in these unprecedented times, we at GEM Alkaji have certainly got going. Let's look at a few facts. Firstly, we have adopted open source digital learning solutions to conduct online teaching. And as I mentioned, next week we'll be starting online exams as well. Secondly, as is our want, we have been scanning the environment, looking for opportunities. We have observed the number of e-learning platforms which have mushroomed, and all these offer multiple courses at different levels of certification, methodology, and other assessed parameters. But one thing to observe is the quality, that differs quite a bit amongst all these, across all these platforms. So taking a cue from there, we have embarked on a very ambitious project for developing a unified learning system that is, sort of package-based, developing multiple online courses based on innovative delivery and pedagogical methods. Establishing quality assurance mechanisms and quality benchmarks, we hope that some of these products, these online courses which we develop, will be able to successfully tap this emerging market and be able to sell our certainly novel and high quality products nationally, in this emerging market. So that's an ambitious project. We hope there'll be a good market for it. It's an emerging sector, online, teaching and training. Then, of course, the well-being of our students, well, that has been very close to our heart, and it is a matter of deep concern for us at the moment because of this COVID lockdown. So we have started online mentoring sessions to provide counsel and comfort to our students. This is not only due to the stress which they have been experiencing because of the extended lockdown period, but it's also to ease their apprehension regarding online exams, which heretofore they have not experienced. This is going to be their first experience, appearing in online exams. So for these, I'm happy to report that the mentoring sessions, have been very successful, and students are much more at ease than what they were, to begin with. So, and then of course, last but not the least, our faculty, very committed faculty. Most of them have been with us for over a decade, and them we continue to develop. That's through their participation in webinars, workshops, and of course our own FDPs, which we design and conduct. These are in new technology areas, whether it's artificial intelligence, cloud computing, IoT, machine learning, etc. So all in all, I would like to state that, considering the COVID, the impact of COVID, the ill effects of COVID, gyms have been somewhat proactive. We are both NBA and NAC accredited. Today we rank as one of the top 30 business schools in India. All said and done, we're constantly evolving. We continue to monitor trends, what's happening, in terms of technologies, in terms of new trends in business. And of course, a testimony to that is, of course, the robust response that we have exhibited, in these difficult times to alleviate, to minimize the effect of COVID as far as our students are concerned. So hopefully, with the passing of May, all of them will be in position in the corporate sector, and they'll be looking forward to a fruitful and a career which is growth oriented, and will be happy, for the future. So thank you very much, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to field them later.
Thank you so much, Dr. Satish. In fact, we have a few questions for you which we'll be taking up at the end, which are related to e-MBA and online MBA. So we'll be taking the questions at the end as discussed earlier. Now I request Professor Dr. Tina Singh to take the discussion forward. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Karan. Thank you to my co-panelists for leading the way and sharing all the sectoral information, what would do well and what wouldn't, and how we as educationists should be leading the way. So let me talk about different aspects from the stakeholder side, who's the most important to all of us, all the institutes who are being represented here. Let me speak from what is going in the student's mind. All the students pre-COVID or post-COVID have been talking about, would I get hired in a receding economy or even in post-COVID? Listening to my co-panelist, one thing was clear that all the sectors, I mean, a lot of them are showing downward trend in terms of job opportunities. But looking at our Industry Connect, I mean, we have been awarded as the best industry linked MBA for the last 3 years by AICT and CII. And that gives us the advantage of connecting with a lot of our industry friends who are guiding us through the way during COVID and what we should be doing now so that everything is taken care of for our students in future. So according to them and our research, yes, job losses are going to be there in multiple sectors, but there is also hope for all of us that there are going to be new jobs which could be created. But who would get these jobs? These are those candidates or students who go through all the futuristic learnings and skill acquisition at their institute as well as personal level. You talk about research pre-COVID by World Economic Forum. They highlighted 10 leading skills which every uh, higher education student must work on if they want to get a good job post their MBAs. Or you talk about Forbes Skills Survey in April, which talks about what futuristic skills students must possess post COVID so that they actually get a job. So now looking at some of the initiatives that we have taken at NDIM and also which matches with this World Economic Forum findings as well as Forbes findings. First things first, what is it that we are doing with our students? We begin with our industry connect, we reach out to them, and we began with curriculum updation. So we highlighted and identified 8 futuristic skills which would actually impart, we would be imparting and are already doing that. So to take things forward when it comes to online classes, we already started our next semester online classes for a few courses based on industry feedback that lets your students get accustomed to the new skills that would be required by the industry. So we aligned our curriculum in mid-March for all the courses that we're going to teach now, and we've already started doing that. Our students are currently going 8 to 10 hours of online teaching every day, which enhances their cognitive skills, attitude shaping, and multitasking. There are a lot of there's a lot of talk about emotional intelligence and well-being during this pandemic and post-pandemic because there's an ongoing fear that will I get job? Would there be sustainability in my job, or would economy do well? So we have system of online faculty support and mentoring and connect in addition to our strong corporate mentoring program. So I'm happy to share that each of our student is connected to a faculty mentor at our institute who speaks to them almost every other day and ensures that they are positive, they are learning, and they're acquiring all the relevant skills that are required by the industry. In addition to Students Connect, we are connecting with the parents because at the end of the day, parents are also one of the biggest stakeholders in our education setup. So they ensure that whatever that is being taught and imparted to our students are well receiving it, and they are getting the right support system during this pandemic to actually deal with this difficult scenario. Based on our industry inputs, we found out that the future is about skills not only in terms of leadership, emotional intelligence, cognitive ability, and people management, but it is also about tech savviness and your commitment to lifetime of learning. So we actually offer courses in data sciences, wherein technology and tools like Tableau, Power BI, R, Python, SAS, RapidMiner, which is going to be the future requirement of industry in terms of digital coding skills and tech savviness to all our students. And it is being well received, and industry is contributing to that as well. Then comes creating entrepreneurs within our job scenarios. It's not only about looking forward to jobs, but why not be job creators? And future jobs would be in the domains of digital technology and even the traditional sectors which would use analytical skills, analytical tools, the digital learning, online learning, e-learning platforms, even supply chain. So we have introduced courses like uh, digital marketing, data sciences, supply chain way back in 2016-17. But during the COVID times, we are offering it to all our 480 students. This is again based on industry feedbacks. All my students who pass out in let's say 2021, they would be armed with digital skills, coding skills, digital marketing skills in social media marketing, blogging, lead generation, search engine optimization, analytical skills, which is sector agnostic. It does not matter if you happen to work in a traditional sector, which is going to be difficult post-COVID, but all those traditional sectors are going to look forward to these futuristic skills so that they are able to turn around their business. Then we talk about another skill which industry is asking for these days, which is about the right attitude and the attitude of adaptability and flexibility. And we are proud to say that all our students undergo the corporate skills development program, which is about leading creativity activities, innovating things, working on their emotional intelligence and like that. So during the COVID times, we have started our online classes. We conducted our online examinations in March and April. We have already completed our second semester in time, which required a lot of adaptability and flexibility at the institute level as well as at the students level. We've tried to follow the AICTE mandate, which asks for new age ways of assessing students using Bloom's taxonomy, open book examinations, online tools and methodology. And I'm happy to say that, yes, we have been able to implement that and our students have already completed their exams. Currently, like I said, they're taking classes for a few courses. They're taking online mentoring from the industry stalwarts from companies like Hero, Yes Bank, EY, KPMG, Deloitte, Times Group, HT, to name a few. We had a strong, robust offline mentoring program where every fortnight students used to meet their industry mentor who used to guide them on leadership skills, what values they should be working at, and their commitment to lifetime of learning. During the COVID times, all these mentors have been actively supporting us, and every week we are having at least 30 to 40 mentoring sessions by these industry practitioners. In addition to that, we've been having a mandate of 25% teaching by industry. And I'm happy to share that in the last 3 weeks, we've had senior leadership speakers from companies like EY, KPMG, Mercer, Dr. Reddy, Thomas Cook International, FinDoc, to talk to our students and take about 25% of topics from the course curriculum. The reason is that if you are the best in the industry linkage, why not get them in your classroom so that they are able to help you transition into the new futurist skills required by your students. We have also realized that yes, the physical traveling proximity would be a challenge during COVID and post-COVID, but that has actually not stopped us from going beyond the borders. And we have hosted at least 3 workshops by international experts and faculty from Pepperdine University, USA, Leuphana University, Germany, Central Michigan University, USA, and next week I have another session by University of Aalborg, Denmark. So yes, world, yes, is restricted within the physical confines of their homes, but we haven't stopped contributing to our students' learning. And I would say that it is about data-driven leadership, it is about digital skills, it is about emotional well-being. So our faculty, students, management, leadership, industry friends, industry connects, they have all been stressing on futuristic skills. And like Dr. Prabhat said, that education has a positive trend. During COVID, post-COVID, yes, a lot of applications have been there for online courses. Yes, we have launched online programs, not only for our students, even for industry. I just finished completing a 1-week faculty development program for people, faculty from 27 different institutes, pan India and Nepal, just last week. This was something that we did during the COVID times. Industry sessions is happening on a daily basis. Students are adapting to these new age learnings, new tools, techniques, and the digital skills are going to be there for the future. And we feel that even though traditional sectors, be it automobile, manufacturing, retail, are going to show a downward trend, but with UX skills, the futuristic skills, the technology skills would definitely help our students to get the right kind of jobs. And um, like Dr. Seth said, that the companies are very supportive for online education, which is something that we have been doing for a while now. And all our 480 students have been placed in best of companies and who haven't rolled back offers, not for final placements, nor for summer internships. So our strategy at NDIM is that no matter what happens, keep in touch with the industry, the economic trends, the requirements of the industry, and adapt and change your curriculum. Because it is about disruption. Yes, a lot of industry leaders and academic leaders have been talking about Industry 4.0 and Education 4.0. This was the unthought of disruption that none of us anticipated, but the organizations, institutions, and especially the students who handle these challenge and take it head on by acquiring themselves with the right skills, they'll be successful, irrespective of COVID or not. At the end of the day, am I ready for my future job based on the contemporary skills as well as futuristic skills? And this is what we've tried to give to all our students here at NDI. Right? Karan, I think that's something that I would like to say from NDI side. And if there are any questions, I would be more than happy to answer.
Perfect, man. Thank you so much for your valuable suggestions of how a student should introspect and take their decisions accordingly, and what approaches are being followed by educationists like all of our panelists in these tough times. We'll be taking up questions at the end, ma'am. We do have a few set of questions. In fact, a few set of questions have already been answered by majority of our panelists in their talks only. However, having said this, the specific set of it, we'll be taking it at the end. Now we move on to the next panelist for today, which is Mr. O.P. Khanduja. We are honored to have you here, sir. If you can please take forward the discussion on the topic industry impact and MBA education, which sectors will suffer and which may prosper. Over to you, sir. Mr. Khanduja, are you able to hear us? Mr. Khanduja, am I audible? Mr. Khanduja, we are not able to hear you. If you can just I think there's some technical glitch that we are facing. Before Mr. Khanduja joins us, I mean, if he can hear us anytime. In the meantime, we'll be taking up a few questions which have been asked by the students as discussed. And if we can have Mr. Khanduja putting up his concluding remarks on the same topic, by that, happy to take it forward. We have a question for Dr. Rajesh. Rajesh, am I audible to you?
Hi. Yes, I can hear you.
Doctor, Perfect. So, sir, we have a question from one of our attendees, Shubham, who's wanting to ask, though you've already mentioned about the hospitality industry in your earlier conversation, who still wants to get a fair idea around see the scope of MBA in hospitality and tourism going ahead as the students try to make their career choices.
If the question is about the long term, the answer is yes, of course, the hospitality industry is certainly going to get back on its feet at some point. We cannot speculate exactly at what point, but in the next 3 to 5 years, we are likely to see a downturn in the hospitality industry. Travel, international travel, and lodging is likely to go through a decline. And also, the nature of the hospitality industry is probably going to change. I cannot exactly get into the details of how it's going to change. I'm not an expert in the hospitality space, but in the medium to long term, I think things will certainly get better. But for the next 3 to 5 years, we are likely to see a downturn in the hospitality industry.
Could I
Thank you
add
so much, sir.
something, Karan?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please.
So I was just reading a report by hospitality.net, which is one of the leading think tanks in the area of hospitality. Yes, like Dr. Rakesh said that yes, there's going to be a downturn and industry is not going to do that well. But like we said, reinventing the wheel, relook at your policies, attract the millennials. That's something that is being forecasted for the hospitality industry because it's not only about people with at a certain age group who would travel, but also millennials who are open to traveling post-COVID. They would have to look at a new arm or a new kind of a service where delivery, takeouts, and other aspects could be looked at. Uh, it is not going to be completely shut shop. Yes, there's going to be a downturn, but they are all looking at reinventing. They're looking at cloud platforms. They're looking at reaching out to their existing customers. They're also looking at probably hosting online conferences via the hospitality sector, to give that digital experience. That's something that is being considered.
Okay. All right, ma'am.
Yeah.
Dr. Seth,
Can I pitch in here? Can I also pitch in here?
Please, Dr. Prabhat. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, Dr. Prabhat. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So can I also comment on this topic question?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Education of any form is beneficial for the student community on the whole.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is going to be a lot of emphasis on public policy. So tourism has got two parts. One is the operational side, other is the public policy as well. So there is going to be a high demand on public policy side of tourism because tourism is one sector that we cannot just leave aside and give up that it's not going to come back. So definitely, there is going to be a lot of requirement over there. So the first to begin with the public side, and second is, it is intricately linked with the travel, international travel. So international travel, of course, is likely to take some time. The moment is going to, come back. At least in the SAARC nation, we can think of that it will revive soon. Maybe with the Europe and America is going to take some time. But slowly it's going to come back. So in our institute, we have actually launched a course on tourism management, keeping in view that this is one of the futuristic area. Maybe today or tomorrow, but it's going to be there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir. I'll again be inviting Mr. O.P. Khanduja. If you can hear us, sir, if you want to add something to the main topic that we had before we before we move to the next questions, Mr. Khanduja, if you are there. Mr. Kanduja, we are not able to hear you. Mr. Kanduja, just say a hi once. If you just try it out, and if I hear that hi from your side, we'll be taking up your thoughts on the topic once we are done with the next question. In the meantime, we'll proceed with the next question. We appreciate your patience on it. Dr. Seth, we have a question for you, which is related to e-learning and e-MBA and digital education going ahead. So, sir, do you think that students will be difficult to monitor in this particular thing, and the practical and the theoretical impacts of the e-learning will be seen in their careers ahead? What's your take on this, Dr. Seth? This question has been asked by one of our attendees, Mr. Rahul. Dr. Seth, if you are able to hear us, you've put your speaker on mute. Any of the other panelists who wants to take this up, the future of India?
Yeah, e-learning, I can give some comment on e-learning if you allow me to speak. Hello, if you allow me to speak, I can give some comments on that.
Yes, Dr. Prabhat, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, how you look at learning in times to come, or how it is going to happen in MBA, you look at all across the world. We need to divide it into three parts, and exactly what we have done at Jaipuria Institute of Management. So the learning cycle of a student suggests that it has to be pre-learning phase, it has to be learning phase, and it has to be post-learning phase. And the institutions which are able to inculcate some engagement, innovations, and some kind of impact in these three stages of learning are the one who is doing better for students learning, and the students are actually doing much better in these kind of institutions. So when I say pre-learning, it's completely there is a scope for e-learning over there, because a lot of flipped video faculty can prepare small flipped video which can substitute the text and the textbooks as well, because these days the generation of students we have, they're not too much into reading the textbooks. So that can be substituted. So pre-learning support can go completely online. Learning support, there is no substitute to classroom learning, so it has to be there because it's not complementary. It's complementary to e-learning, but it's not a substitute to e-learning. So there has to be, but some kind of blending has to be there, because if you're not trying out that blending, then institutions will go for 10% blending or 20% blending, depending upon their choice. It has to be there, and a complete mix of pedagogy has to be there. In post-learning, reinforcement is very important, because if you look at Jaipuria model, we have installed the Impartus lecture capture solutions in our classroom. So this means when the lecture is delivered, the lecture is already recorded and it is made available through the app to the students, which they can access on mobile or anywhere, anytime. And therefore, you have the reinforcement of learning happening after the class gets over. And therefore, a student who actually gets engaged and do some kind of innovation in these three stages of learning, like pre-learning phase, learning phase, and the post-learning phase. And if the institutions can support these three, then the students' learning cycle is actually complete, and they're able to build almost on 80%, 90% of their learnings. Otherwise, if you just focus on the classroom or the learning phase, ignoring the pre and post, there the students end up by learning 20% to 40% maximum. If the faculty is very good, then the students will learn 40%, not more than that. And that's how the employability gap emerges, in spite of the fact that we are doing good in the classroom. So this is the model which is emerging very fast. And this is a model which AACSB also approves, and all forward-looking institutions are adopting. In these three, I have already outlined that e-learning plays a very important role, and we are also thinking of substituting some of the courses through MOOCs courses. So you have to develop the credit equivalence of those MOOCs courses. So first, the faculty will do those MOOCs courses and will ascertain and give us the clear-cut framework of how this course can be a substitute of 3 credit course that we are offering on campus. and therefore these kind of courses can be offered to the student, which they can pace their learning at their own. So the time has come when we allow the student at least to begin with 10% and move up to 20%, 30%, 40%, whatever is the capacity of the institution and the vision of the institution. We can think about that, but some space, paced up learning has to be there with the students. So institution must allow the students to pace their learning at their own time, and that can happen only when you create this kind of blended learning environment. So e-learning has a bright future, but I'm not advocating the fact that e-learning is going to be a complete substitute to the classroom learning. It's not going to happen, and that is not also a good thing to do unless the student is not available and it's in the remote, and then you allow them to learn through e-learning. But classroom cannot be substituted with e-learning, but has to be blended with e-learning. That is the call of the time.
Perfect. Sir, just a question was there in my mind. So now I'm clubbing two questions in regards to what I've already asked. If you just want to add on here. So do you see e-learning also contributing to the factor of social distancing in the various colleges and universities going ahead?
It's a good mode to avoid. It's a good mode to avoid social distancing or to follow social distancing. In COVID time, e-learning is wonderful. If Dr. Tina has suggested, Dr. Seth has suggested that they have gone on fully to the online learning. We also have shifted to online learning. We have finished our courses, everything, examinations. We are also going for e-convocation. Just to give you the information. We are doing this online convocation for our student. So these are all given the situation of COVID. I'm saying is, it has to be blended now, and the faculty has to gear up, and their capacity has to be enhanced to go online, because they have to learn how to conduct classes online, how to engage a student online, what kind of pedagogy is suitable for online teaching. These are some of the training areas which is emerging for the faculty. That's number one. Number two, the students, from the student side, e-learning is in high demand. But there is, for Indian students, if you look at, there is also going to be a tipping point of e-learning. So if you give them continuously the e-learning, today if you tell your student that everything is going to be online, the students will say, no, I'm not going to join your institution because I want some classroom experience. And then if you look at all the reports that has been referred by Dr. Tina and others about the employability, like 10, 20, 10, 12 employability skills which are required in the industry for era. You look at one fine point in all these reports, which is going to be very interesting finding for all of us. That finding says that out of a set of 10, 12 skills, only 3 to 4 can be taught in the classroom, and rest have to be inculcated outside the classroom. And remember that if you're sending your students to face the challenges of the future, a blend of inside classroom and outside classroom learning, that's number one, blend has to be there. The blend of offline and online classes, or classes with the online classes. The third blend, which is very important, as I understand as an educationist, is the blend between formal and non-formal learning. The way you and I have learned in our life, you just look at that and reflect upon that. How have we learned? Have we learned all that we have learned today in the classroom? Not at all. If you look at 70-80% of what you have learned today is outside the classroom, not inside the classroom. And therefore, why are we not creating this kind of blend for the students to learn informally? Learning can happen in cafeteria, learning can happen in corridor, learning can happen in outdoor situation, learning can happen in market. Are we, if we are not capturing these learning spaces, are we not doing some kind of injustice to the learning cause of learning for the students? That's the point I'm trying to. So there are 2-3 kind of blending has to be there, and one blending is e-learning plus the online the classroom learning. So it has a future.
Karan, I am now unmuted, so perhaps I am now unmuted. Perhaps when required, I can contribute to the dialogue.
Please continue.
Hello.
This question.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Am I audible to you?
Hello, Karan, Dr. State here.
Yes, sir. You
I'm
can
sorry I
continue on the
couldn't
same
respond. Muted. Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible, pretty much audible. You can continue on the same topic of e-learning.
Yeah, as far as e-learning is concerned, yes, it is. It was necessary and it was implemented during COVID. But in any case, COVID is here to stay, so it's not going to go away. And if you see the guidelines of UGC and AICT as well, they have recommended that the faculty staff be brought up to speed because part of the teaching, 25% of it will have to be online and 75% in the classroom. So blended learning will have to take place. Institutes will have to engage in online learning 25% of the each subject syllabi. Now, earlier this aspect was issued about the success of online learning. Well, as far as teaching the course, the syllabi online classes are concerned, the experience has been very, very successful. Yes, we are going to engage and start the examination process next week. Hopefully, that should also be satisfactory. Issue raised about proctoring, how well the students could be monitored all the time during the duration of the examinations. Well, for students who have the laptop or the system with the web camera in place, they can be monitored so that there's credibility to the process, the system is fair, and no unfair means can be used. But in case of students in remote parts who are, working on mobile, etc., well, there is a bit of challenge. So the limitations of proctoring will not be there. But all said and done, these are first experiences, and I'm sure a lot of learning will result. The other issue which was mentioned was about skills, formal and informal learning. Well, yes, some of the skills I quite agree as it has also been the panelists. A good portion of place outside the. For instance, look, when we talk of let's say international exposure, developing skills. So 60 of them, international business, go to NTU Singapore for a 1 week course, certificate course in global immersion. This is each December. 60 of them go. We have a good partnership with the Nanyang Technological University, one of the top universities in the world. They have got an extremely, developed robotics lab. So when you can talk of robotics, you can talk of artificial intelligence in the classroom, and the students go and witness, robotics and robots in operation at NTU. The experience, is it's a good learning experience. Tends to connect, correlate classroom learning with what you are seeing on ground. So that has been successful. And then look at we have we have 5 specializations for our PGDM students. We have the typical vanilla envelope marketing, finance, and HR. And 2 years back, introduced 2 new specializations in business analytics and entrepreneurship. Now, it was not enough enhance or awareness by simply having a session and maybe supplementing room learning with having entrepreneurs from outside, from whether it's MSMEs and elsewhere, to come and engage with the students. So what we did was we have established a incubation cell, along with the Delhi University College, the Acharya Narayan Dev, ANDC. So we have jointly established a, Instart incubator in our college premises in Kalkaji. So that has gone a long way. Students have been, got deeply interested. Immersion in entrepreneurship has taken place. In fact, they have submitted some good business plans. A team of our students participated in IIM Bangalore where they won, laurels. And they also made a presentation at the Taj, for a national entrepreneurship company. So they have done proud. And what I'm trying to drive as is that apart from classroom, the informal and the practical learning is extremely important to develop entrepreneurial skills or cross-cultural skills. So our experience has been satisfactory with the incubator. It's picking up, and we already have 6 incubatees from outside, and hopefully, it's going to pick up, will be and established into a fine incubator, which will be well, occupied and engaged. So, if there anything beyond this, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you so much for adding on to the point of e-learning. Thank you so much, Dr. Rajesh, Dr. Satish, sorry. We'll move to the next question, which is meant for Professor Dr. Rajesh. Dr. Rajesh, what is your take on MBA in international business going ahead?
The MBA in international business has been very effective, largely in helping FDI kind of businesses settle in the emerging market space, and also to some extent in
मैंने unmute भी कर दिया. अब I don't know why the sound.
Mr. O.P. Kanuta, your voice is audible now. We'll be taking up your points after we're done with this question.
Yeah. So going back to this question of IB, the international business part, I think the investments in emerging markets like India will take a pause for a while, as I said, till the dust settles. Because right now, the situation is too unclear for major investments to happen, because everybody is in a wait and watch mode about how things shape up. So in the next year, 2 years phase, I don't expect much action in the IB space. After that, as somebody rightly pointed out, that China's losses to some extent may be India's gains, and some amount of relocation can be seen, and also the relatively more successful way in which India has handled this crisis, at least up to this point. What is there in the future, only future can tell. That has also may lead to more IB type FDIs coming towards India, and that can only have a stronger, create a stronger market for MBA international business graduates.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajesh. Mr. Kanuja, before we take up your points, you want to add something to this topic? What do you see as the of MBA and international business going ahead?
Yeah, Karan, am I audible?
Absolutely.
There was some
absolutely.
No, there was some problem. Can I start, because I couldn't hear the question which you asked me or somebody else?
So the question was meant for that's open for all the panelists. In fact, the question states that what do you see the future of MBA in international business?
I think looking at today's scenario, personally, since I am from the industry and I've spent 4 decades in the industry, MBA in international business probably will not have that kind of kick, maybe next couple of years. But it has got pros and cons both sides, because there is a tremendous opportunity of coming various industry to India. So there will be a mixed response from my side, because what industry would be expecting MBA international business may not be the right pick at this point of time.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, we have one more question, and then we'll be moving on to your piece of take on the topic that we have. In fact, we are glad to have you here, and despite all the challenges, technology has brought us so close that despite all the efforts, we could finally get a chance for your expert opinions on the same topic. In fact, I'll ask this question to you because it was again an open-ended question. Mr. Khanuja, what do you feel that the employability impact will happen 2 years down the line? For example, if a student joins for an MBA course in 2020, what do you see? Where do you see the employability happening in 2022 with the kind of a situation that currently is?
And I think by the time these students who will check in now, 2021, by the time they pass out their MBA, probably there will be lots of correction in terms of economy. And I think there's going to be tremendous opportunities, which in fact I was going to explain during my talk with everyone. So I think it's going to be very, very big opportunity for the by the time they all pass out, because there will be lots of reforms, FDI, and lots of opportunity will be coming, wherein these students will really enjoy the beginning of their career.
Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Prabhat, if you can add a few lines here, with just.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I'm firmly of the opinion that is going to bring a lot of opportunity for Indian economy, and the opportunity, the benefit of these opportunities will percolate down to the MBA students in a big way. So my take is that in 2022, it will start from 2021 itself. Well, I'm not very sure about 2020 because things will take some time to settle down, but 2021 it will start happening, and there is going to be a robust growth in employment opportunity for MBA students. I'm not talking about the employment per se for the whole economy. There may be some gap somewhere, but as far as the MBA freshers are concerned, like of the institutes like ours, they'll be graduating. For them, there is going to be a tremendous opportunity, and these opportunities are going to be lifetime opportunity because it never would happen in the past. That's how I can visualize it, because all these big companies are going to come back very fast, and the way India is positioning itself in the global environment and geopolitical positioning of India, we have already spoken about. I have already given a lot of data about how 300 companies are in touch with Indian government, and Niti Aayog has already framed a small group, and talking to them on one-on-one, and there is a lot of talks on the table already being placed. So these companies are likely to come. So even if we assume that what is being talked about today, and almost like 20-30% of that will materialize by 2022, this is going to be huge for India. And the areas I have already outlined, like mobile electronics, and big giant like Apple, iPhone, maybe we should not surprise if they skip their pace. Medical, I mean, we are already a leader, but medical devices, there is a lot of interest from American companies, the European companies. Japan is likely to come in medical devices to India. Textile and synthetic fabrics, also I can see a big scope. Iron and steel. So, one prediction is that India is going to be like, manufacturing hub. And, this status of international manufacturing hub might shift from China to India. But it depends on how things will unfold, because China is also going to play its card, and is already started showing its tantrum here and there, and a lot of propaganda coming out of China. But I don't know how the geopolitics will take shape, but I'm very much positive about Indian economy, the way it is being poised today. So it's a very good news for the MBA students. And my suggestion always to any MBA student who is talking to me about the future of jobs, or should they do MBA or not, my answer to them is that this is the right time you should do MBA. With anything that you want to do, history, political science, geography, do MBA. That is the right time. So if you want to do MBA, this is the best time to do MBA. That's what I keep on doing.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Prabhat, on it.
I'd like to add a view, if possible.
Please, Dr. Singh, please go ahead.
Yeah, I quite agree with Dr. Bhatt that 2020, yes, certainly there's going to be a revival, and businesses certainly will be looking up. In fact, they'll be looking up from by the second quarter of next year. Of course, the sectors I had already mentioned, which are likely to benefit post lockdown, like oil, FMCG, paints, private banks, restaurants, etc. But let me just take financial sector, as an example. Now, if you see the impact of COVID today, the banks and NBFCs, they are certainly, yes, they're likely to see a rise in NPAs. The small and the medium sector and MSMEs, they are likely to also be hit strongly because loan growth demand is going to recede, is going to be led by negative outcomes. So, but if you look at the near to medium outlook, when we go into 21, 22, the NBFCs and HFCs will certainly be focusing on liquidity and risk management. So post lockdown, around the second quarter, healthy banks like HDFC, ICICI, they have a strong capital base and they will be able to bear the high interest costs. Though of course the net interest margins may be a little low, it will get certainly hit a little. So if you look at the outlook and the prospects, we are considering a V-shaped, hopefully a V-shaped recovery. So 2021 is good, and students, I agree with him, joining, and completing their MBA in 2022. The prospects of a job, a lot of employment opportunity is certainly ripe. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I also give
Thank you
one
so much.
insight? Can I also give one insight from the stock market? Let's say we have not spoken about what is happening to the stock market. I'll just give you one simple insight from the stock market, how things are going to unfold in near after 6 months or 1 year time. You look at the specific company-wise stocks. So I'm not talking about the overall stock, that is going on, going down. So look at Reliance. People are buying Reliance, stock left and right, and their unit price has actually jumped up from 750 to 1400. And during lockdown, people are buying HDFC, people are buying pharma, which has actually moved up. And look at IT, Infosys, IOC is able to give a lot of dividend. TCS, the L&T company, Mindtree. Look at all these stock. They're actually the unit value have increased rather than reducing. So it's not about the overall scenario which is gloomy, but you look at the silver lining in the scenario. So what I'm expecting in the stock market is as soon as we come back, maybe 6 months, 8 months down the line, after that it will go up to 40. Cross the 40,000 line very soon, the stock market. So things are going to bounce back faster in India. There is another way to look at is that if you look at the cost of social distancing, of course, it has the benefits. Of course, people are not, their death tolls are reducing. But overall estimation of the cost of distancing, social distancing has been estimated. And it might go up to like 75% of the expenditure might go down in many major economies of the world because of social distancing. But the percentage of decline in social in the expenditure in India is estimated to be much lower. It can be about 30% to 40% expenditure will go down in India. So relatively speaking, the Indian economy, if at all there is any chance for revival, strong revival and gain from the crisis, that lies in India.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening up on this, us on this. Dr. Khanduja, Mr. Khanduja, if you want to take up a crisp take on the
Yeah, yeah.
topic which was meant, yeah, please.
Yeah, it has been really a big struggle looking at the technical issue. I've been struggling for the last half an hour. I think most of the panelists have already done touch base from their perspective. And we are talking here about industry impact and the MBA education, which sector will suffer, which may prosper. I'm telling you from my perspective, since I'm from the industry, I've spent close to 4 decades with various blue chip companies, and now I moved to academia. The biggest question which comes to my mind, I think, is, what we all were struggling, not we, all institutions were struggling to give industry-ready professional. So the industry will get kicked. Yes, this is what the material we are looking at. And what's going to happen after Corona? So this is what we were expecting before Corona. What is going to happen after Corona? Probably their expectation will be same, rather more, and they'll be asking about set of skill, because there's going to be lots of change of organization culture. I'm in touch with various industry. What they're expecting, probably their appraisal system, their deliverables, their everything will be changed. Now, what in fact COVID has made us? This COVID has made us, all of us, so responsible that we have started thinking about how we are going to be in the future. Now, during these 1.5 months, what we did at APJ, we have really experienced, we did a whole lot of homework. We have done more than 130 sessions. We have been able to reach around 10,000 audience with 50 plus corporate from industry, CII webinar. And in fact, we did lots of faculty development program. We did reverse mentoring. In fact, we were trying to find out the psyche of the student, those who are into 2020 batch, how they feel, because they are the major sufferer, because the student who will check in now will pass out in 2022 will be probably having lots of opportunity. So we did a whole lot of reverse mentoring, touching base with them, asking them exactly what's going to be there. What this responsibility has made all of us. The biggest responsibility which I feel is going to that entire faculty, entire institution, and what we are thinking that we have to come out with the new course pack. I think most of the colleagues were talking about 75-25, whether it's 70-30. Now, because till now the industry was talking about ABC. When industry comes and pick the student, I'm talking my experience, we try to have attitude, behavior, and commitment. Now industry is going to talk about A, B, C, D, the deliverables. And those deliverables will be coming when we create such kind of program in our course pack, wherein faculty has to be more responsible to meet the expectation of the industry. Everyone has to be tech savvy. There are lots of things are going to be, because then only industry would be, talking about. I was talking to a couple of industry. They were saying about that performance appraisal used to take once in a year. Is it going to change? Yes, probably it's going to change, because now that legacy, that 1 year sitting and doing the project probably will not be there. So there are going to be many things. Now even industry has to really come out, because till now industry was just expecting from institutes to give us industry ready professional. Now the challenge they also have to face. What kind of industry professional they're talking about? When we are ready to create a new course pack, so what kind of changes they are talking about? Probably they are talking about people who are more energetic, who are more analytical, who are more system oriented. And to me, this MBA education we do in marketing, we do in sales, we do in international business is nothing but to make you aware about the particular situation, to make you more logical, to make you more analytical, to make you more presentable, to understand the situation. And I think the future is going to be fantastic. The students have to really do lots of things. What we were doing at APJ, we have started doing lots of online courses. We have started getting into the Coursera University. We have done tie-up with TCS. So we have seen the existing students, probably the kind of energy and the learning they are showing, it was humongous. And the kind of interest they are talking about, it is great. We did a program called reverse mentoring, wherein our students were teaching to our faculty to really create interest, to create understanding. It's very easy to say that we'll start the online course, but we need to ask to our stakeholder, are they understanding? We have to create the same amount of excitement among them so that they deliver when they go to the industry. You must have seen that the CEO of Amul and Mankind Pharma, what they're talking about. Everything is going to be same, but everything is going to be same does not mean the number of people will remain the same. The geography will remain the same. There are lots of micro analysis is being happening at the industry. They're talking about what kind of skill they're really looking at. Now, I think most of our panelists have already told that what kind of industry are going to have a setback, what kind of industry are going to, bring back, what kind of industry are going to be there. If you really look at, there are many kind of, there's a very clear cut, the economy has taken a hit. And the kind of commitment which in fact our government is going to take, they are reforming, they are attracting many investment. In fact, yesterday only news, there are around 50 companies where the UP chief minister has written to come and invest into UP. They look at one state, look at the entire India. There's going to be humongous opportunity. We need to deliver the management student, which will always be used. I think one of the panelists have said very, very, very rightly. No, the MBA is something which is going to work whole of your life. And I think with this situation, the student which will be entering at this point of time will be really, will be more committed. There are how this economy will come back. Obviously, economy will come back. We are a young country, and everybody is looking at the kind of impression we are creating at the international in the international framework. We have delivered basic medicines and many things to many countries, so they are really interested. So the government have started getting into everything. Now look at the China is going to really get set back. MSME. Now the entrepreneurship. We have been talking about entrepreneurship, but how many institutes have been able to deliver entrepreneur? Probably, to me, it's difficult. But now with this opportunity, wherein China probably will get a hit, our student or like what we are trying to get into it, we are trying to create another entrepreneurship cell, probably to do something to generate the job, to get into rural area, to do something so that really we help in doing some correction in terms of the economy. There are going to be many things as such. If you really see what industry is talking about, Book My Show, I was surprised. The Book My Show now naturally has to diversify how he's going to survive. So he has created something new called theater, e-theater kind of thing. So Amazon is talking about essentials. So they are delivering essential. Now they're talking about something with Domino's. Even industry is struggling. Industry has to struggle. And in fact, industry and education means this MBA, it's a chicken and egg story. Industry cannot survive without management graduates. So we all have to really think, we all have to really make them really fit for the industry. And I think, whether I call it unfortunately or fortunately, industry have been demanding to all of us to give us industry-ready professional, but they had never given any guidelines or any interest. But now, fortunately, the time has come and the industry has to come forward and do something very interesting. Otherwise, this will be something like that. There are going to be few industry which will get set back, but that setback will be very temporary. It will be definitely, may it be hotel, may it be travel, may it be anything. But the kind of industry which are really going to really make e-commerce, FMCG, pharma, and entertainment, video conferencing. Look at Zoom. The kind of Zoom stock has gone so high. Look at in 1.5 months, the kind of users of Zoom has been fantastic. Everybody has been talking about Zoom. So in true sense, what I would say, based on my experience, I think we all have to deliver in conjunction with the industry. What kind of industry profession you're looking at? Because today, now their stake is also at the same risk. Earlier, their stake was not at risk. They used to come to the campus for hiring. We have been doing hiring. We have been doing every kind of work. In 1.5 months, we have done everything. We have a legacy of 50 years. Our APJ is handling right from school education to the higher education. We have online, we have Moodle, we have webinar, we have put everything. We name it, we are doing it. And we are really trying to do many things. But at the end of the day, how it is going to give benefit to the MBA student to deliver it to the industry? I think the new course pack, full of energy, full of new ideas, wherein the role of faculty, and I think even the faculty have now realized that conventional teaching is not going to help the student. And if you look at the student has become smart, because this is the opportunity which they have seen with their eyes. And the student who will be checking in now and passing out in 2022 will be far smarter. I'm not saying the students who are passing out now are bad. They're equally good, but they will have enough time of incubation, of handling this all new course pack, understanding the ideas, understanding the problems, and probably they'll be brighter. And this is really going to have a great concern for all of us. So I will not be taking much of time because most of the panelists have already explained, made touch base of everything. And we at APJ are trying to create something. I personally trying to get into a course called Vishwas. What I feel that there is a management student, if they have a confidence, I've spent 40 years with all blue chip companies. There's only one thing, which is called confidence. If you are able to deliver confidence maybe through technology, confidence through innovation, confidence through course pack, confidence through anything, probably our students are going to be there. Now look at the kind of industry when they will come. They really need management graduates. They would be literally looking at management graduates. I think the student who will be checking in now will have a humongous opportunity to really do something fantastic in terms of their this. And every management institution have to really work together, have to really ask to the industry that what kind of changes you are talking about, what kind of material you are looking at, it is not like this that just give us industry ready professional, and when they come they say that your student doesn't have this, your student doesn't have this. And in fact, we at APJ, in fact, I'm from last 2 years, is trying to do only one thing, that I trying to create confidence among the student. When you go, what kind of things you really have to carry with you. And probably the students are very optimistic. They're full of energy. Our faculty is full of energy. Our promoter are full of energy. We all are working like a team, and we all are ready to take this challenge. Yes, at the time of crisis, I think education is the only way out. But now only education will not help. Education with innovation. Now innovation is from person to person, from institute to institute. But we all have to think about innovation. So I'll not be taking much of your time. And this is what I thought. Let me share with all student fraternity. Come forward and take this challenge. You have seen this challenge. There's enough time where you can learn. If you can be a good leader, you can make your career and you can do fantastic. But remember, you have to fetch from us. No one of us is going to deliver you anything until unless you really demand. If you demand, we are there to deliver. And we at APJ always believe that come to our room, talk to us. If you are not able to do anything, we'll do correction. And I think at APJ, we are trying to do very close with the student in terms of the job placement, in terms of SIP, in terms of FDPs, in terms of openness. I think this is what we are trying to do. I'll not be taking much of your time. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kandoja. In fact, this actually motivated on the whole. As they rightly say that every dark cloud has a silver lining, and this is what our panelists have generally given us a feedback around. Despite these tough times, there is always a brighter side to it. We'll just quickly have the last one minute remark on how the
Sorry.
student approach should be going ahead. Dr. Prabhat, we'll start off with you. Just a 1 minute goodbye and a tip for the students on
Okay.
how their decision making should be based.
Thank you. My privilege. So my take for 1 minute for the students would be that they don't need to, get disheartened. This is the time when they should focus on skill building, and skill building can be done from home also. If they are staying at home, then they should start focusing on online courses, MOOCs. They should start, connecting with their faculty. They should start connecting with their institutions and learn as much as they can, because this is the time when they can spare time and learn more and more. So that's what they should do. They should not be worried about the job as of now, because their turn will come in 2021 end or maybe 2022 beginning year, and by that time we all have the assurance to you that things will be quite well for India, and it's going to be rather much better for India. The kind of things which India is going to see will be for the first time after this crisis. And you just look at one. I'll just give you one assurance in terms of one trend. One more trend you can look at. The trend is that the global economy has already started looking at sourcing a lot of things to India. Like US and Europe have already started sourcing, because they're looking for now low cost outsourcing solutions. And where on earth can which country can provide them low cost outsourcing solutions, let's say to IT, finance, non-core items, and India will rise up to challenge to this challenge, and India is going to be looked up to by almost all countries in the world. That is for sure. So globally, even the buyers are shifting their attentions to India. So don't worry about their job prospects. The only thing you have to do is to focus on your skill development. As the previous speaker has rightly said, building on attitude, behavior, commitment, and things like that. So these are some of the things that is going to be there. So nothing to worry about. It's a transition phase.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. We now invite Dr. Seth to give his last thoughts on the students' side of it. Dr. Seth, please.
Yeah,
Karan,
thank you. I quite agree with Dr. Pankaj. I think now is the time when we really have to rise to the occasion. We need to restore comfort and confidence amongst our students. COVID has created a lot of disruption. We've, experiencing formidable challenges not foreseen in the past. So B schools really need to gear themselves for the change times. We got to understand what the new normal is. So for that, we got to look into a lot of innovation, a lot of new strategies, so that we can secure and give our students a brighter future. So some of these I've already mentioned: adopt digital learning solutions and LMS for teaching online, introduce new and innovative courses such as which are in line with the emerging technologies like business analytics, robotics, data, machine learning, cloud computing, etc. And then we also need to introduce courses such as those which help to develop student wellness. That would be doing them and serving a larger purpose for humanity. These can be credit or non-credit courses. Student wellness is important. And lastly, I would say, in these times, it's imperative that B schools, they shoulder the responsibility. They develop and adopt well-rounded practices, because this is a time of crisis. We need to focus on capacity building of our young minds. So, and we've been talking about skills. It is only well-developed skills, that will eventually drive employability, productivity, health, and well-being, in the decades to come. And the larger, macro aspect will overall progress, as far as India, the country, is concerned. Thank you.
Karan,
Yes, yes, sir.
I just wanted to have 2-3 lines for all the students. Whenever you allow me, I'll speak those lines.
Perfect, perfect. So next is you only. I'll just thank Dr. Seth for his valuable words and Dr. Prabhat for his valuable words. Please continue, sir. You can continue, please.
कि मैं स्टूडेंट फ्रेटर्निटी के लिए एक 4 लाइनें बोलना चाहता हूँ. आई थिंक उसके बाद उससे बड़ी चीज मेरे को समझ में नहीं आती. आप वो हैं जो दुनिया के डर से अपने फैसले नहीं बदलते. आप वो हैं जो दुनिया के डर से अपने फैसले नहीं बदलते. आप वो हैं जो अपने फैसले से दुनिया बदल सकते हैं. आपके पास इतनी ताकत है, आप अपने इस फैसले से दुनिया बदल सकते हैं. मींस कि आप दुनिया में एक अच्छा रोल अदा कर सकते हैं. सो दिस इज व्हाट इन फैक्ट आई जस्ट थॉट टू हैव कपल ऑफ लाइंस. आप वो हैं जो दुनिया के डर से अपने फैसले नहीं बदलते. आप वो हैं जो अपने फैसले से दुनिया बदल सकते हैं. इतनी आप में एनर्जी है. इंडिया इज प्राउड ऑफ youngster. We are a young country. Take फैसला, come forward, do your masters and be a part of the economy. कुछ करना मांगता है और वो तभी है जब आप पीछे नहीं हटेंगे. आगे बढ़िए. अपनी जहां भी आप जाएं, it is not only you come to X or Y. It is not only हमने क्या किया और आप क्या कर सकते हैं. It is you, because we all are director. You are the actor. You have to decide where you can make yourself comfortable for yourself, for your family, for society, for nation. Do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for these lines for our students who have joined us and are still being patient enough to take this as a 2-hour learning session for them. In fact, students who come on our platform have always been of the opinion that process is, and we've also been communicating to the students that process is more important than the result. And as far as I understand APJ, they also are of firm opinion of soaring high is a student's nature. And that's what reflected in your lines. Thank you so much for that. Professor Dr. Teena Singh, if you want to add something here.
Yeah, Karan, I would like to talk to the students and tell them that right now is the time where you can really work it yourself. You have all the time in the world. You don't have to travel. You don't have to go attend your classes physically. And industry is looking at somebody who has utilized this time right. Acquire a new skill, get a certification which is over and above your existing baseline course. Why not acquire a hobby and take it to the end? And find an online mentor who can guide you through your journey. Let it be a faculty or an industry connect who would be there to take you through all the disruptions and the future skill requirements. Look at certification courses that are there. Like I said before, all our students go through industry certifications, be it NCFM, NISM, Google Analytics, HubSpot. We also have partnership with Udemy. Right now, that partnership is paying off for our students, and all of them are taking courses in addition to their online classes. They're also getting certifications, and industry is definitely going to value that. What have you done beyond your existing courses? And like all my co-panelists said, that this is the best time to go for higher education and work it yourself. That is what I would like to say.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Dr.
Karan.
Tina. Yeah, we also agree that learning is a never-ending process, and people at all ages, be it students, be it people like us, they should always be engaged in learning, and that's how we'll be able to contribute it back to the society. Thank you so much for your valuable words, ma'am. We'll now take the last minute of the discussion with Professor Dr. Rajesh Chakraborty. Dr. Rajesh, if you want to add something here for the students.
Thank you, Karan. The only thing that I would like to say here is what COVID has taught us is that however well prepared we may be in our narrow, focused learning process, the world can throw surprises. Surprises that nobody was prepared for, nobody had foreseen before. And going forward, it seems such surprises are only going to become more frequent. So as young students plan their career and their educational preparations, I would strongly advise that it is important to think beyond narrow skill development and think of wider ways of knowing how to take decisions in a completely unfamiliar setting. So the only thing that COVID has taught us so far is that the future will remain unpredictable and volatility. There's a phrase that is quite common these days. It's called an acronym called VUCA: volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. That is exactly where the world is headed. And in this world, the education that helps you the most is a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary approach towards learning, and not just narrow skill development in any specific sector. To stay away from narrow skill development, go towards broad perspective building education. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. In fact, with the kind of the words that you mentioned, we at Shiksha are also of the firm opinion that change is the only constant, and the world, if keeps on evolving, becomes a better place. Thank you. So, on behalf of Shiksha, I'll thank all the panelists once again, all the attendees once again for taking out their valuable time, for listening, for sharing their thoughts, experiences, and giving it back to the society in whatever form. In fact, a humble request to all the attendees also, if you want to share this particular video, we have recorded this particular webinar. This will be uploaded on shiksha.com YouTube channel in a couple of days from now. You can share this video with your friends and family also, so that they can also get the major takeaways from the session. On behalf of Shiksha, thank you so much, everyone, once again, Dr. Prabhat, Dr. Satish Seth, Mr. O.P. Khanduja, Professor Dr. Tina Singh, Professor Dr. Rajesh Chakraborty. We were glad to have you, and thank you so much to all the attendees. We'll end the session here and wish you all the very best for future.
Thank you, Karan. Thank you, everyone. All the best.
So if you can also, one request, if you can also send us the link when you upload the video.
Perfect, sir. The respective team will be able to share the YouTube link once it's uploaded on YouTube with you.
Thank you. Thank you. This was a great opportunity. Lovely talk.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.